think that point in our life where someone who's in my community turned their back against me, and that's such a pivotal moment in my life, it broke me to the point that I didn't even want to live.
Powerful words. Yeah. Sterling, I saw you raise your hand earlier saying that your coming out process was not as easy either.
Well, it certainly wasn't as hard as I think, as we just heard, or a lot of people out there. But mine was coming from the religious aspect. Like I told you, both of my parents are ministers, and spirituality was instilled in me at a very young age. So, me and Jesus were tight. We were like this. And, to grow up and realize that you're different. And, I came out at 16, and it began to eat me from the inside out. Like, it's hard to explain unless you've really experienced it. But it like I said, you cry yourself to sleep every night. You become depressed. I mean, it just erodes at you. And finally came out at 16, and that was like, at that point, the hardest thing I'd ever done. And then to decide, do I want to go to heaven? Do I want to go to HEWL? It's like, it's a one-way ticket straight there, And so it was really hard just coming to the realization, to have to choose between your spirituality and your sexuality is, it's unfathomable. That's something that nobody should ever have to do. But, eventually, to make the long story short, my parents came around. They're awesome, love them to death, and they're super accepting. So things change and they get better.
I think that's a good segue into this next segment is in regards to gay people in the church. I know that Jayr, I know, sings in gospel-oriented groups here in the Northeast Alabama area. Jayr, do you feel that your position in these gospel groups that you sing with, do you feel that because of your sexuality that your standing with these groups could be compromised?
Well, personally, yes, but if you look at the majority of the men in the groups, we all are gay. So we kind of get to a point where it doesn't really matter. But there was one time where it did. I had turned 18, and I invited some of my friends to my a church I used to go to. And I was so excited for them to be there. I was like, my church is this, my church is that. And we had a guest minister to get up and preach. And I went up, if you ever got up to go and shake the pastor's hand or a guest minister's hand after he's preached, go shake his hand and say he did a good job. And immediately, the whole sermon turned to me. And church was packed, and, he was saying this and saying that. The identity you're walking in is, not of God. And, in my mind, the only thing I could think about was my friends are in the back, and I know everybody saw us come in, and it turned from like him saying that to a whole maybe 30 minutes to an hour, just going at it, and I was so shocked. I started crying and went home and told my mom. My mom went to the church immediately after and handled that situation. But the older I got and the more groups I got in, I realized that we all needed each other. There were straight men in the choir, but they were mostly gay. And, it is compromised because you don't get invited to certain churches. You don't go to certain engagements. And even with attire, if we have to maybe wear our own attire, men, let's make sure we have on suits, or, the shirt is not too tight, or, nothing that's too flamboyant or extravagant that'll take away the fact that we are ministering to people. So, you do have that compromising position. Do I walk in here like I walk in at my regular church? Do I change it based on denomination? Because I'm Baptist, but that doesn't mean Kojic and Church of God and everybody else is. Every denomination has. Look, we ain't with all that. Calm down. So we have to sometimes not butch up, but queen out when we get in the back. So you have your compromising, things, and whenever you're at the forefront like I am, I think about it a lot before I get ready to do anything. And then I realize, we all have our own struggles, straight, gay. So let me do me and let me give God praise.
What about you, Sam? How do you feel that the LGBT community, how do you feel their position is in the church now in the year 2013?
Personally, I don't really attend church. I'm not religious. But I do feel that a lot of the Christian people that I know would definitely not be accepting of me or of any of my friends. They would probably do the exact opposite of what Christianity is supposed to be and do a bunch of hate crimes or call us derogatory names. I've seen a few of my friends that were bisexual or that were lesbian or gay. I never knew any transgenders, but
you know one now.
They would be Christian. They would go to church and they would go home and they would cry because they would get bashed on by their peers or by the people who are very religious, the ones that can always attend church, and they know that they are out, and I feel that they're not very accepting to people like me.
Russell, you were trying to grab the mic.
I am. Okay, I grew up in a very Southern Baptist family. Very. And back to where they coming out, they had caught me a couple of times. I've managed to weasel my way back into the straight world in their eyes, just so I don't have to deal with the whole religious and straight camp and counseling and all that stuff. I didn't want to deal with it. So I have met through high school a bunch of Christians that have say they're okay with you because it's the Christian way to be okay with your brother and all that. But then we had a lady come speak as we had like a political thing come at our school. And it was one Democrat, one liberal, and one Republican, right before the re-election, the prime elections before I graduated. And what had happened was she had told the entire school that gay rights were a joke. And all of my Christian friends who were sitting beside me, who I thought would be on my side and offended and hurt, stood up, cheered, and screamed. So promptly I stood up with a couple other of my friends and left. And as I've came to college, me and her have both met this one girl.
You and Sam.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Sorry. I forget, not TV. Me and Sam have met this one girl through our organization on campus that is a Christian, but she's very accepting, she's very loving. She loves us for how we are. It just goes to show you that there's different spectrums of the religion thing. Mm-hmm. There's Christians who accept and Christians who don't.
Sterling.
I just have to give a voice to my church and my perspective. Certainly there are people in the faith community who have given us an extremely bad name and scarred us. But I just want to put it out there. I've been really blessed. My recent church, the last one I attended, and the one that I attend now for a little over a year now, my partner and I, we've been going there. We're there every Sunday. We sit together. We do church activities together. It's a small church, and they know who we are. And, they address us as a couple. It's never been an issue, and I just think that's awesome. In small town Alabama, that my partner and I can go and go to a church and worship just like everybody else.
Yeah, I was thinking something along those lines where people automatically assume a lot that Christians will automatically despise you for things like that. But that's not always true. I mean, yeah, in gay pride parades, you'll see the people standing there with the signs from their churches and things, but a couple of feet down the road, you'll see more Christian people holding up signs saying, gays are all right. We're really sorry how other churches have treated you. So it's a different spectrum. It's similar to how certain people who act a certain way can completely mess up things for everyone else who are in a certain group, like the Christians and, of course, the LGBT community.
To touch on that, I want to say that no sin is greater than another. So if you think about it, just because you go to church every day, you do this, you that, everybody sins. It can be, oh, they said a cuss word while they were sitting at the stop sign. That's sinning. So you can't say that my sin is greater than yours, because every sin is a sin. So that's how I think Christians look at it, or whatever religious group that you are. They feel that because you are gay, because you're a lesbian, because you're queer, because you're transgender, that you're going straight down.
Why do you think people think that, you all?
Yep.
Why do you think that the idea of homosexuality is put on such a negative pedestal as opposed to other, quote unquote, as just Elise put it, sins?
Why do people feel that seem that way? Because people fear what they don't understand.
Yes.
And when they fear it, they get the wrong understanding. They'll get together and they'll get these stories going and making up stuff, and like I said, they don't understand it, and then they'll make a big to-do out of it, make a big mess out of it. I'm from a Southern Baptist background also. You know, my granddaddy was a pastor, my brother's a pastor, my sister's a pastor, but they have never ever thrown up in my face that I'm going to hell, that I'm gonna burn in hell, and you know that they don't love me. They still love me for who I am. They might talk behind my back, you know, about it in situations, you know, together, but they've never voiced it to me. Now, I was casted out of my church when I was my Baptist church that I attended.
What does it mean to be casted out?
Well, they had a big meeting on me at church, and they all talked it out, and they was like, Jeffrey's got to go. You know, he's got to go because he's living wrong. You know, we saw him downtown at the bus station, you know, with a Navy guy, you know, had on a white dress and walking through the bus station with the Navy guy. I had 2 Navy guys that night that, you know, I partied with at the club. And so I was criticized for that, you know, and they didn't like it, and they brought it to the church. And they had a big conference on it, and they told me I had to leave. So, you know, after that, I was like, when I got with my husband, I said, John, I want to go somewhere where I'm appreciated, where I'm loved for who I am, and not be ashamed of who I am. You know, I believe God loves me, and he answers my prayers just like anybody else, because I prayed to him for situations that, you know, were unbearable at one time, and then they were solved. You know, I prayed to him, and they were solved. So when I come here to Birmingham, you know, I was in the park one night walking with my friends, and I met a group of people, you know, that went to this church, and they invited me to it. And like I said, you know, covenant community. And and so I went to the church, you know, and I have been going ever since. And I love it because they're understanding. I mean, I'm on the usher board. I greet people at the door. Come on in, you know, have a good day. You know, I'm good with the people. I'm one of the head chefs at the church. They love I'm a good cook. They love my cooking. I mean, my pastor, we talked, you know, I talked about wanting to have a group where, you know, I could counsel kids that didn't have an opportunity to, you know, have somebody to talk to them about their lifestyles and whatnot, you know, that were criticized and bullied, and some of them committed suicide, you know, and I was like, I got to do something about this, because, you know, when I was coming up, I didn't have that person to help me with that. So I started my group. I talked to my pastor about it. He told me to go ahead and get it started, which was called Roxy's Room. And it was started out a transgender group, and now it's grown into other, you know, aspects. We do hate crimes discussions. We talk about any gay issue under the rainbow. And I love my church, and I love my members, and they, you know, they're behind me.
Well,
and it is.
Fortunately for people such as yourself, Roxanne, you are able to openly identify yourself as whatever category. I'm guessing for you it's transgender, and there are other people out there who are able to openly identify themselves as gay, lesbian, or bisexual. But there are many instances in the church, and many famous cases in the church, where when those allegations of being a homosexual come about, the person that these allegations are coming against, they denied them. Take a listen to this story. You may all may be familiar with the situation of Eddie Long. That is the 60-year-old head pastor of New Missionary Baptist Church. It's a 25,000 member church near Lithonia, Georgia. It's a city in DeKalb County, Georgia, just right outside of Atlanta. Well, in September of 2012, Long came under fire after 23-year-old Jamal Paris, 21-year-old Anthony Flagg,